What's up, everybody? Aaron Nagler here, Cheesehead TV, coming to you live on Wednesday afternoon. The Packers are just about to start practice. I have to go early, though. I've got an event for LiveX downtown later this afternoon, so I thought I'd jump on. And first, before I start anything else, a bit of a programming note. Packer Transplants is being rescheduled and or booted till next week, yet again. Can't be avoided, unfortunately. Lots of LiveX stuff going on. We have a client in the studio that's making it pretty much impossible to do a Packer Transplants. But we'll be getting one up and out for you guys very, very soon. May do something unconventional with Corey at some point this week. But for anyone looking for transplants today at 5, I really apologize, but I will be downtown at an event. You need your Cheesehead TV fix. Well, here I am, chatting Packers. Does anyone else like the live stream before it even starts? I hope so, Jeff. It's very, very sweet of you. How's my Wednesday? My Wednesday is busy, but just heard from Matt LaFleur, and it sure sounds like everything's on track. Start practicing a little bit here for their showdown with the Vikings. B.J. Goodson, who came over from the Giants late last week in a trade, it sounds like he will be seeing some time both on special teams and from scrimmage. So it'll be interesting to see how they incorporate another inside linebacker on the defensive side of the ball against that rushing attack for the Vikings. Why would the Bears PR team stop Trubisky from talking about last week's game? I have no idea. I'm on to Minnesota. Who has a better O-line, Bears or the Vikings? That's a good question. Probably the Bears by a little bit. Weather blows here today in Wisconsin. I heard Banky wouldn't stop tweeting about it earlier. Do we see a significant increase in the run game this week in an attempt to soften up that defense? Brandon, I think so. I do believe LaFleur when he talks about the need to extend drives and get more opportunities. They did get to some of that zone scheme in the second half last Thursday, but more often than not, they were just behind the sticks and they were unable to convert third downs, which meant they were just off the field. They need to put together some drives, convert more on third down. I think they converted 2 of 12 or something like that last Thursday. That's obviously not going to cut it. They just need to stay ahead of the sticks, stay in short yardage, or shorter yardage, manageable down and distance, and then you'll see more opportunities and more runs from both Jones and company. Hope you're doing well. Thanks, podcast. Can we trust the secondary to stop Thielen Diggs while we stack the box to stop Cook? Well, I don't think it's a question of stacking the box, so to speak. I do think you'll have to really set a strong edge. I think the Smiths are going to be up to that task. It's all about funneling Dalvin Cook back inside, and then can Martinez, Green, maybe Goodson, and then the inside line, inside out pursuit. Can those people then make the play necessary? I think that's going to be a real key. As far as the secondary goes, look, those wide receivers are no joke, and don't let the stat line last week fool you. I mean, I think Diggs got 2 targets, but that was very much a product of the fact that they were up so quickly and able to run the ball so effectively, they didn't need to throw it. Diggs is very talented. He was playing injured a little bit last week. That's something to keep an eye on this Sunday. But he made hay last year against Alexander. Don't think for a second that Alexander hasn't thought about that all offseason. That is going to be a big challenge for him. I do think the secondary has improved. I think Darnell Savage really changes things for the Packers. But we'll see how Pettin goes about trying to slow down that passing attack. MLF has got to know Kirk's game quite well. Yes, Matt, he mentioned that at the podium just now, how they were together in Washington. So, if there's somebody who knows his tendencies, knows what he likes, what he doesn't like, what makes him uncomfortable, how to take advantage, etc., it'd be Matt LaFleur, no doubt. How much is Rodgers holding the ball too long when receivers are open? How much? Not a ton, but, somewhat, a little bit. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's who he is. It's what he's been for quite some time now. And it's not like there's guys blazingly, ridiculously wide open. I mean, these are like small, short windows where guys are breaking free and maybe he doesn't pull the trigger and or maybe he's just not seeing it and or looking that way. And that happens. That's life in the NFL. I don't think it's particularly egregious. I think they just faced a really good defense last week, and that defensive front was able to get on top of him by the time he was able to process anything. That's going to happen. They get paid too. Hi from Germany. What's up? Enjoying your balanced view. Thank you very much. Cheesehead TV is my #1 resource for Packers content. Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you so much. Does Allison get more involved this week? That's a really good question. Obviously, I think he had the 1 target last week. it's all dependent on matchups, week to week, how they want to attack various defenses. I can't see anything in Minnesota that makes me say, yes, they're absolutely going to, spread it out, utilize him more in the slot and get him more involved. I do think he'll see his fair share of involvement, so to speak, but I don't ever think he's going to be a focal point of the offense. Now, that said, if Xavier Rhodes matches up on Devontae the majority of the time, which I suspect he will, and say they shade coverage that way and or to MVS on the other side, maybe that creates some more opportunities for Allison, or maybe they go to some more 3 wide out sets. But don't forget, a lot of what happened last Thursday was a result of so many 2 tight end sets. We didn't see a whole lot of that under McCarthy. We certainly saw it at times, but not a ton. Saw a great increase in the usage of 2 tight ends on Thursday night, or even 3 tight ends in some cases. So, those years where we got so used to 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, obviously it's still very early, but I would suspect that the usage will be quite down under LaFleur. Do you think it's a waste for Devontae to run those bubble motions, or a good way to draw defenders on deep throws, i.e. MVS bomb play? I don't think it's a waste at all. It helps Rodgers and the offense know, it gives them a little bit of something as far as how the defense adjusts. And if you see a man trail him, obviously the suggestion there is that it's man coverage. It's not always the case, but more often than not. And that's valuable to the offense, valuable to both the quarterback and the offensive line trying to set protection. Pettine being on the sideline is underrated. Well, Matt, Laroy Butler loved it. Fritz Shermer had been on the sideline when Butler was a player, and he spoke on his 5 questions video over at Packers News earlier this week about how it helps the connection between the player and the coach. Hey, if it's effective, I'm all for it. I tend to think you can coach from either spot, up above or on the sideline, but I love that the players certainly seem to like it, and they seem connected to their coach. You saw it at the end of the game there on Thursday night. Media won't say it, but Kirk Cousins drops a lot of dimes in his throws. Well, I'm not media, so I can say it. Yeah, he does. I mean, he throws a pretty ball. There's no question about it. I don't think he's the world's most talented quarterback or anything, but yeah, I think he's got a really nice deep ball, and he's certainly completed his fair share against the Packers, both in Washington and in Minnesota. Vikings game pivotal to the NFC North chances. Patrick, it's certainly important. It's way too early to say it's a must-win, or if they lose this, they're done, or they're out of it, etc. It's a big, big marathon. It's not a sprint. But, yes, of course, it is very, very important. Where do Lane Taylor and Billy Turner have to improve for this game? How long you got, Eric? No, I'm kidding. More than anything, the anchor, I think. I mean, we saw the struggles in the run game seem to be more mental from what I saw. It's the pass protection where, Turner got beat a couple times with speed, but both guys struggled anchoring and getting, kind of their weight underneath them, I thought, especially early on. But, that's something they're clearly going to watch on tape. They're going to try and correct. But I don't think it's any mystery that Elton Jenkins is going to see the field sooner rather than later if we see a continuation of that type of play on Sunday. Who do you think, on each side of the ball has to play better? I don't know, let me think about that. Lindsley struggles a bit too last week. I thought he got taken advantage of with speed a couple times. There was a couple reach blocks that he normally makes where I think he was, the Bears did a good job of scouting the kind of things he likes to do and took advantage of it. Maybe that's an adjustment he needs to make. Maybe that's something that the Vikings will continue to try. He got beat inside a couple times when he's running that, he snaps the ball and he has that quick first step, which is what you love about him, and it's something that he's utilized really well throughout his career. But they took advantage of it a couple of times with interior rushes, and I do wonder if that's something that maybe he and the coaches need to look at. But for the most part, it's a really tough environment, great defensive front. I'm not too concerned about Corey Lindsley. I think he's a really good player. Jair Alexander holds a lot. See which direction his receiver is going. He's a grabber, that's for sure. He knows how to get away with it too. He's already a savvy veteran, only in year 2. You'll love to see it. Are we going to see more of Gary and his speed to help counter Cook's, quote, shifty run style? I don't know if it's going to be a direct response to seeing Dalvin Cook, but I do expect we'll see more Gary. I definitely think we'll see more than the six snaps we saw on Thursday night. I can't imagine continuing to run Kyler Fackrell out there ahead of him, at least to the extent that they did last week. Dylan, thank you for the super chat. Whoa. When and where to meet for a beer Sunday? Check lot 1. I'll be wandering around lot 1 prior to the game. Do you think we see more Gary this week? I said that already. Rodgers seemed to stay in the pocket longer and more often than usual. Was that coincidental or an adjustment to what LaFleur wants? That's a really good question, Marshall. Rodgers will be available to the media later today. I'm hoping someone asks him something along those lines. In fact, I will text someone and ask them to ask it. My hunch is that it's something along the lines of a combination between the two. But more often than not, I think it's about the scheme and the coach trying to drill that into him. Does Rodgers have patience? That sounds like a Jedi question. Yes, I think he does. Hope to see Vitale catching passes out of the backfield this week like William Henderson back in the day. He's got the skill set. We saw it all throughout the summer. We saw it continuously in training camp. I'm with you. I was surprised how little he was utilized, both in the passing game and just strictly just being out there in the running game against the Bears. But hopefully that's something we see a little bit more of against the Vikings. Will we see Coomer? A lot of crystal ball questions. I doubt it. I mean, we'll see him maybe a handful of snaps. But again, like we were talking about before, they use a lot more condensed formations, a lot fewer multiple wide receiver formations. Maybe he gets out there ahead of Trevor Davis a little bit, but I tend to doubt it. We'll see. Over under on the Smiths getting 12 pressures. Combined? Over. Absolutely over. What are the lottery numbers this week? Exactly. I can see the Vikings coming with a lot of fake blitzes, double A-gap mugs. Yeah, I mean, that's Zimmer to a T, right? They love to walk those linebackers up into the A-gap and try and make you think they're coming, and then who's coming, and then who's dropping, etc. As for whether they run a ton more fake blitzes, so to speak, I don't think it will be exponentially more than anything Zimmer's done in the past, but certainly playing coverage and rushing 4 is a way to frustrate the offense, and that will test the patience that someone was asking about in regards to Aaron Rodgers. Do we re-sign Brian Belaga? I think you did a good job against the Bears, or he did a good job. I doubt it. I think one of the reasons they brought Billy Turner in and paid Billy Turner the money they did was for him to slide over to right tackle when Belaga's contract is up. Now, I'm not saying it's an impossibility, but I tend to think Belaga can make a lot of money with one last contract out on the open market, and I'd be surprised if the Packers were willing to pony up, but you never know. It's still very early. Maybe they get something done throughout the season. Can we sign both Blake Martinez and Kenny Clark and Brian Belaga? That's where these puzzle pieces get tough. Can they? Yes. I expect Kenny Clark is a number one priority. I'd be surprised if Blake Martinez got done during the season. If it does get done during the season, it's got to be because Martinez gave him a hometown discount, because he can make a whole lot of money on the open market. I think we'll see lots of blitzing this week. That interior of the Vikings O-line is still not very good. Well, Ben, I agree with that second part, which makes me think maybe we won't see a ton of blitzing, because you can rely on Kenny Clark to wreak havoc up there. Why send bodies when you only need one? I do think they'll mix it up. That's Pettine's way. It's what he always does. But I don't think you'll see a lot of heavy blitzing. I think you'll see lots of selective blitzing. Do you think they stick with Raven Green playing a lot of linebacker when Burks comes back, or put Burks in that spot? A mix, Tony, I think, depending on the offense that they're facing that week. I do think it'll be matchup dependent. I mean, Raven played a hell of a game on Thursday night. Now, the key is consistency. And if he continues to play like we saw last week, it's going to be tough to get him off the field. It'll be tough to, justify, we got to get Burks out there. Why? Raven's playing really well, and you're being really effective on the defensive side of the ball. Podcast 1919, thanks for the super chat. Nags, do you think we get the screen game going? Well, they tried a couple times last Thursday. Timing was really off. Guess that's not unexpected, given that they, didn't have any snaps in the preseason, although we saw plenty of other teams that didn't have any snaps in the preseason together, and they executed screens just fine on Sunday. I do think we'll see a number of screens, and it's funny that you asked that, because Mike Zimmer literally said, when asked about Matt LaFleur's offense and any kind of threads that he could see throughout his tenure in the NFL, all the stops he's had, the one common denominator that Zimmer said kind of followed him along was the screen game. Screens, every kind of screen, traditional running back screens, tunnel screens, wide receiver, smokes, etc. So yes, I think we will see a number of them. Who does Savage remind you of? I mean, I said it during the draft process. He reminds me of Earl Thomas. And I know that's big. Those are big shoes to fill. And I know most Packers fans probably think they're looking at a young version of Nick Collins, which is very possible. But I think he's a little more physical than Collins was. I see Earl Thomas. Billy Turner has a slow get off. Could that be rust? Yeah, it's possible. And we'll see how he responds in Lambeau. I mean, part of it too is the environment. It was loud as hell in Soldier Field on Thursday night, and he's playing against a really super quick defensive front, a really talented one at that. So I think there's a lot of factors there. But yeah, he's got to play better. He's got to solidify that right side. That was what he was brought in to do. Do I see an improvement in the run game this week? Yes, I do. Mostly because of the fact that they're in Lambeau, and Rodgers will be able to manipulate the line of scrimmage a little bit more. I don't think they're going to bust off for huge gains. I don't think the run game is going to take over or anything, but I do think they'll be more effective in the running game, and that will open up some of the boots, some of the play action stuff that they like to do in this offense. Hopefully that opens things up. They get ahead of the sticks a little bit more, and they're able to showcase a little bit more of their offensive packages. 10 snaps for Rashawn Gary this week. Over or under? Give me the over. Do you think Kirk Cousins will be harder to confuse with those mix of fronts and rushers? A little bit. I mean, he's a veteran, right? He's seen it all. He's not the young guy Trubisky is. I do think they'll be able to get after him quite a little bit. And the funny thing is don't forget, last year in Lambeau, that Week 2 game, they did a very good job against that Vikings passing game until that 75-yard bomb over Devon House and Kentrell Bryce that kind of ignited the Vikings offense. But up until that point, I think it was in the third quarter, up until that point, they had done a very good job of kind of limiting things, keeping things in front of them, not allowing explosive plays, etc. But then once that happened, it was the floodgates opened, and things got, and then Kevin King got hurt, and things really kind of fell apart on them. Hopefully, they're able to stem that tide a little bit more and play a little bit more like they played earlier in that game against Cousins. What is the weakness that he's going so fast, guys. So many questions. What is the weaknesses that opposing defenses exploit when it comes to battling Rodgers? Well, I think, they want to utilize his penchant for wanting to hit the big play. So they're going to play coverage. The Chicago blitzed him a little bit on Thursday night, a little bit more than I would have expected. But I think most people want to play coverage because they know Rodgers is trying to hold the ball on him. That shows you how often Corey is watching my live streams. Do you think Robert Tonyan gets more shots? Not a ton. I think it'll be pretty similar to what we saw last week. We'll see a lot more Mercedes Lewis. Tony Correnti ignited that offense last season. Can't bail Minnesota this Sunday. Eric, that's a fair point. He also gave him a W. All right, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. I'll be back tomorrow. Like I said, no transplants tonight, unfortunately. I'm so sorry about it, but it will be back soon. Look for everything we're doing at Cheesehead TV. Subscribe, hit the like button. Let us know in the comments below your thoughts on the game coming up this Sunday. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good day.